All right, it's that time, guys. It's playoff time. It's time for everyone to know that no matter how much we like our team, no matter how good we think they are, no matter how confident we feel, it's one loss away from being over. And that goes for every other team in the NFL. It doesn't matter how many games you won. It doesn't matter how many points you won those games by. It doesn't matter if you have the league MVP and 5 All-Pros. None of that matters. No matter how good you feel about your squad, one loss ends it. One loss sends you to the offseason unsatisfied. And with that comes a certain amount of stress, but there's also the opportunity for, from that stress, to come something special. And I'm looking forward to see how this team responds to that pressure, how this team responds to some potential adversity, and I hope that it can result in a special season. Now, before we get into this game, I want to congratulate a few Seahawks for making the official NFL All-Pro team. I've said this before in streams, I don't give a rip about the Pro Bowl anymore because it's such a joke, the way they pick their players. I don't give it any credence whatsoever, but I do care about the All-Pro selections. And we had one first-team All-Pro, Bobby Wagner, and you guys know, I don't know if his play this year really warranted an All-Pro selection. You guys know that I've been on record saying I don't think he's an elite middle linebacker anymore, but I like Bobby, so I have no problem celebrating the fact that he has been honored as the number 1 middle linebacker in the league along with Fred Warner. And I also want to congratulate DK Metcalf and Jamal Adams. They made the All-Pro team second team. And in the case of both those guys, hopefully it's the first of many All-Pro selections as Seahawks going forward. Jamal Adams made it despite playing the equivalent of 11 games. So huge kudos to Jamal for that. All right, so Seahawks hosting the Rams in wildcard weekend, the rubber match, if you will, and it looks like we are as healthy as we could expect to be. Jarran Reed, there was some concern about him this week, but it looks like he's going to play. Shaquille Griffin did not practice on Thursday, but it seems likely that he will play. Obviously, we were all concerned about Jamal Adams. Looks like he's going to play. Brian Monet had a little bit of a concern spot in the middle of the week when he didn't practice one day, but it looks like he will play. The only thing that could have made this injury news better would be the news that Darrell Taylor could play, but to a certain extent, are we really going to stress out about somebody who hasn't played all season not playing? And by the way, when Darrell Taylor hits the field, if he does this year, don't expect too much from the dude. Just putting that out there right now. The Rams, we don't know who we're going to get at QB still. Jared Goff has been practicing a little bit this week, but it seems like there's still a little something missing from his ability right now because of that thumb injury. I'll tell you, as of right now, I expect John Wolford to play. I think that that's probably good for us, although there have been some people, some Seahawks fans, some Rams fans, some general NFL fans who have suggested that we'd rather play a Jared Goff with a bad thumb than John Wolford, who we have very little tape on. I can see it that way. I understand. I don't agree. But we don't know who we're going to get at quarterback. Other than that, though, the Rams look pretty clean. They're getting Andrew Whitworth back. Cooper Kupp looks like he's going to play. So, look, I feel good about this defense right now, this Seahawks defense against this Rams offense. I do. I feel like this Seahawks defense has played well enough recently for me to have a lot of confidence about their ability to get it done against an offense that is good, but it hasn't exactly been great this year. And we were able to hold them to 9 points with Jared Goff playing most of that game 100% healthy just 2 weeks ago. So I feel good about the defense in this game, especially knowing that we're going to have everybody out there. Hopefully everybody is able to play effectively while they're out there. The last thing we need is Jarran Reed out there not able to have an impact on the game because he's still working through his oblique injury. We certainly don't need Shaquille Griffin getting burned all the time because his hamstring injury is slowing him down a little bit, which that is a scenario that does concern me, but we cannot ask for much better injury news at this point of the season than we have right now. Yeah, Bruce Irvin, Marquise Blair, they're still out. We knew they were going to be out from week 2 on. We've lost maybe a couple other guys on the way. I think Jamarco Jones is still on IR, but for a playoff team, this level of health is as good as you can expect. So right away, I'll tell you that tomorrow afternoon, my expectation is that this defense gets it done. We get pressure on Goff. We force turnovers. We force them to punt away some of their possessions. And at the end of the day, I expect this defense to play well. So just because that is the case doesn't mean that we can accept the same level of play from this offense that we have seen over the past, I would say, 3 weeks, where the offense takes a huge portion of the game off and then plays just well enough on a couple of drives to eke out the win. The last 2 games the Seahawks have played, we basically took the first half off. 6 points, not much production on the offense at all, a lot of sacks, a lot of ugly possessions, nothing really good going on. In the game before that, we kind of took the entire last 25 minutes off, and we allowed Washington to claw back in and come relatively close to actually pulling out a victory. So we might be able to get away with that again this week. If the defense plays well, if we can force some turnovers, and if John Wolford plays the game that I expect him to play if he does indeed start, this defense may very well play well enough tomorrow to secure a win even without tremendous output from our offense. But that's not going to last. So however this team gets the win tomorrow, I'll of course be happy. But I'm really going to be watching this offense tomorrow that is relatively healthy. Upati is back in the lineup. Brandon Shell is back in the lineup. We've got all of our running backs. We've got our receivers as close to 100% as we can possibly expect. I know Tyler Lockett is probably not 100% right now, but he had 12 catches last week, so clearly he's still capable of playing at a high level. What I want to see tomorrow, more than anything, other than, of course, a win, would be some signs that the things that have been holding this offense back in recent weeks have been on the offensive line. Not having Brandon Shell, not having Mike Upati. And look, Mike Upati may very well get hurt in the second quarter tomorrow and be out for the rest of the game. That's just the Mike Upati experience. But the offense, which started the season looking like one of the greatest offenses in NFL history, has definitely turned into a more typical, average to slightly above average NFL offense over the past several weeks. With the exception of the Jets game, the offense has really not looked that good for the last 2 months. So a few people have suggested, hey, it's because Schottenheimer is sandbagging before the playoffs, which I don't buy at all. That doesn't make any sense to me. Some people have suggested it's because the offensive line was banged up. We weren't able to implement our full game plan. That maybe. Because if there's one thing that has really characterized the Seahawks' recent offensive struggles, it's that the deep ball has abandoned us. We don't have a deep ball all of a sudden. The only big play through the passing game that I can recall from recent games would be the David Moore play against the Rams early in the third quarter. Other than that, we've been throwing a lot of short stuff. We've been getting the ball out of Wilson's hands quickly, or he's been trying to hit the deep ball and just not been able to do it. Now, I don't have a problem with an offense that gets the ball out of Wilson's hands quickly. In fact, I think we need to do a healthy amount of that, but I also recognize that Wilson's best asset overall throughout his career has been his deep ball. He has a tremendously good deep ball, and one of his greatest strengths as a player is his ability to hit those plays 30, 40, 50 yards down the field. And I also know that's one of DK Metcalf's greatest strengths, the ability to run those routes and get those passes. So we might be able to win tomorrow without having a big-time offensive performance. In fact, I think it's very likely that we would be able to. But I want to see it start to come back. And I don't need to see it explode this week, because we're playing a great defense. The Rams' defense is one of the best in the NFL. It might be the best in the NFL. So the question is, can this offense find the right balance between hitting those big plays that Wilson is so good at, or has been good at his whole career, and not allowing him to stay behind that line and get battered because the Rams have a great pass rush and they have a great defense. So it's up to Brian Schottenheimer, who, in my opinion, may very well be on the hot seat this offseason, to find the proper balance between hitting those big plays and also protecting Wilson from taking a lot of sacks and hits. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but that's why he's making as much money as he is. That's why we hired him, to find that right balance and exploit on it. So I don't know if we need it tomorrow. I'll tell you this right now. Our defense may play well enough tomorrow against a crippled Rams offense to where we don't need to have 30-plus points to win. But we may very well need those 30-plus points to beat the Saints, the Packers, the Chiefs, the Bills, whoever we end up playing on the way. So the engine needs to get turned on because, like I said last week, we're kind of out of time. And the matchup this week may have bought us an extra week of being able to flit around with a mediocre offensive showing and still win. But that doesn't mean that it isn't time for the engine to be turned on because, look, sometimes you try to turn the engine on and it just doesn't turn on and suddenly you're down by 17 points in the third quarter in a playoff game and it's too late by that point. It might be too late. That's kind of what happened last year in Green Bay or earlier. Yeah, last year against Green Bay. So it's going to be interesting to see how the offense approaches this game because, again, I can understand that Pete Carroll probably feels pretty confident right now in winning this game his way, which is just be conservative, punt the ball a lot, and score a few touchdowns late in the game. Just find a way to hit a couple of big plays and then let your defense take it home because that formula has worked for wins the last couple weeks. That formula worked for a win 2 weeks ago against this exact same team. And we are playing either a backup quarterback with very little NFL experience or a QB with a bad thumb. So Pete Carroll may be looking at this game and thinking, hey, I can win this game with my defense and my special teams, and we can punt the ball a lot and only score maybe 17 to 20 points on offense and still win. So that being said, we need the players to execute at a very high level. We need the run blocking to hold up because I'm sure we're going to run the ball a lot in this game because we have all three of our running backs and we have Mike Upati back. So the players just need to execute really well if we want to see a big performance in this game. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying the coaches are going to do a great job putting this team in the best possible position to succeed. In fact, one of my main concerns is that Wilson's slew of turnovers in the middle point of this season made this coaching staff pull things back a little too much. And they're going to be hesitant to push it back into sixth gear. But I also feel like that to a certain extent as a player, you can overcome those less than stellar coaching decisions made by coaches and still get the job done. So that might be what it takes this week. I don't know because I don't want to completely underestimate Sean McVay even if he hasn't had his best season. That Rams offense, whoever they play at quarterback, might go out there and play really well tomorrow. And then we're going to have Wilson go off and the running game go off to keep up. So I'm prepared for whatever. But that being said, I do want to see how this offensive coordinator strikes a balance between getting back to the big play offense that we were earlier this season and not letting Wilson get sacked 5-6 times by a really good Rams pass rush. All right. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Kind of went all over the place in that preview, but overall, here's what I can say about this game. Number one, I feel confident in this defense to get it done and play a really good game tomorrow, and that could be enough to get the win. Number two, I'm interested to see how the offense approaches this game in light of what has happened to this offense recently and whether or not the players are able to overcome any conservative play calling that we happen to utilize. So with that, I'll see you guys later in streams. Peace out. Go Hawks. Whatever you feel, you're one loss away from it all being over. And that is stressful, but we're going to do it together, guys. We're going to do it together.